Skip to here to get to the good stuff. Avengers Doomsday comes out in 4 months. There's 4 Avengers movies. People have been really negative about Marvel as a whole, but especially this project for a long time, and even I haven't been as positive as I'd like. So screw it, I've loved every Avengers movie up to now, and I think I need to remind myself why. No, these are not going to be definitive deep dives of each film. I'd love to make those, but I make videos notoriously slowly unless they're under 15 minutes, and I'll have other videos my real job, and who knows what else to contend with, so if I want to do this before Doomsday comes out, they've got to be quick and snappy and broad. Yes, there are flaws in all these movies. No, I will not be focusing on any of those flaws or trying to provide a balanced quote-unquote objective look at any of these films. This project is meant to be a purely positive gush fest, so that's what I'm doing. That doesn't mean you can't feel free to be negative in the comments, just expect that I'll argue with your points most likely. Speaking of the comments, please be nice to each other, it's actually not hard. This is why I love The Avengers. 2012. The first, broadest, and most immediate point I can hit is that this movie holds up. It's been 14 years, and for me at least, the bloom hasn't faded off the rose even a little bit. The character beats, jokes, visuals, and action scenes of this film have all been built upon, surpassed, and called back to countless times, yet they all still hit. The experience of sitting down to watch this in 2026 is just as hype, just as engrossing as it was back in 2012. But let's get more specific. Tom Hiddleston as Loki is an all-timer villain performance, not just in superhero films, but films in general. It's comparatively rare that a comic book movie has a villain role that's so iconic that it in part defines that actor's career. I'd argue Ledger's Joker, Defoe's Green Goblin, Molina's Doc Ock, and Brolin's Thanos are among the few examples from this century, and Loki, specifically in this movie, is right up there with them. As I'll get into in just a moment, this film strikes a pretty excellent balance of its cast, but if there's one performer who I think gets the space to genuinely steal the picture, it's Hiddleston. He gets to play Loki in so many different modes throughout this movie. You can really see here why such a flexible character became so instantly beloved and sticks around to this day. He can be sympathetic and pained, smug, calculating, cold, aggressive and feral, humorous, portentous, lost, defeated, and even downright cartoonish, and it all feels like believable facets of one character. In a very similar vein, this is the best that the MCU has ever characterized Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Oh, by the way, free Palestine. There's a layer of soft amiability to Bruce, hiding a sharp, cynical wit, which is in turn hiding a deep self-loathing, all of which gets reflected in how he interacts with everyone. Something I think Hulk adaptations have a difficult time dealing with is the fact that Bruce Banner is by both nature and necessity kind of a standoffish, unsociable guy. And I love that Ruffalo can communicate that part of the character while also, paradoxically, making him someone who doesn't have to work that hard to make other people like him. Because he is charming despite trying to maintain distance, and the rest of the team meets him with trust and sympathy that they don't really spare for each other besides. As for the big green side of things, I'll always prefer a savage Hulk to a smarty pants, and this is still probably the best looking CG model for the character to date in my opinion. I love that this movie splits the difference between terrifying ticking time bomb Hulk and actual character with a degree of sentience and morality Hulk. I never see this brought up, but I like that this direction builds so naturally on the 2008 Ed Norton movie, which was all about helping Bruce humanize the Hulk and realize that he can be directed if not controlled, and can be at least occasionally trusted to do the right thing when released. I could go on about this character and really all the characters individually. Instead though, let's talk about the cast collectively. Because this film is a true ensemble piece in the sense that there's not really any one or two central character relationships grounding the thing. I feel like the instinct of most people trying to make a movie like this would be to choose one or two character configurations to be the quote-unquote leading relationship of the film, or the thing that grounds the story. Instead, this is a movie so excited by every potential cool character pairing that it doesn't let any one get more airtime than is absolutely necessary to explore what makes the pairing unique and interesting in the space of a scene before moving on to the next one. Natasha and Clint have exactly one dialogue scene to themselves to make me buy into their deep, years-long friendship, and it completely works. Thor and Loki manage to feel like an emotional backbone to the story despite only speaking to each other in 2.5 scenes. Coulson gets one scene of dialogue apiece with Thor, Tony, Steve, and Natasha, and even if you've never seen him appear in Thor or Tony's previous movies, you totally buy that his death would galvanize the lot of them. There's a couple of debatable exceptions to this sparseness, namely Natasha with Bruce and Steve Steve with Tony. These are what I'd call the most consistent relationships in the film, the ones which get checked in on with the most frequency, but they're both still done in very economic ways. Nat and Bruce have their one long extended dialogue scene together early in Act 1, and then a bunch of very small but very meaningful interactions and exchanges across the rest of the film, all the way to the end. Tony and Steve, by contrast, have easily the highest number of big interactions in the whole movie, definitely the marquee relationship of the movie if there is one, but it's almost entirely concentrated into Act 2. The pair of them are never on screen together for Act 1, and as with every other relationship in the film, it's only given token glances in Act 3 where the focus is all the big action spectacle. You could still argue that these are the two relationships the movie hangs on structurally, definitely the two dynamics the film is most interested in, and Lord knows that the fans decided that the Bruce and Tony Science Bros relationship should be the thing that takes off like a rocket after this film came out, but my point is that the movie's character-focused energies never stay in one place for very long. This film has all the infectious enthusiasm of someone mashing their toys together, not just in the action fighting sense, but in the crossover fanfiction I want to know how absolutely everyone would bounce off the most definitive versions of each other's personalities sense. Which brings me to my next point. Maximalism. Every character in this film exists at their most heightened. Everyone feels like they're bringing a whole separate genre with them into this movie, and they all blend. This is a movie where Hulk feels like a B-movie monster, where Thor feels like a mythical god out of a Tolkien-esque fantasy, where Loki feels like a Machiavellian Shakespearean menace, and where Captain America feels like a 40s serial adventure hero. On that last note in particular, I love how Chris Evans plays Steve Rogers in this film. Much of his tenure in the MCU has Evans subtly subverting the square-jawed authoritative side of Rogers' character by playing up his sensitivity, cleverness, and grace. But in Avengers 2012, his body language, his subtle accent work, and his line deliveries are all about really leaning into the archetype, and it's really fun. And hot take, the costume is also a part of this, and for that reason it's really good. Yeah, it's boxy and cheesy, and the helmet is especially a bit much, but it matches the energy that Steve brings to this movie. And this whole film takes that approach to heart. This is a movie that, for a scene, takes real advantage of the fact that it has a scheming Iago-esque villain sharing the same space as a cynical femme fatale super spy, and then says, hey, how nuts would it be to have a totally straight-laced dialogue scene between these two where they're leaning all the way into their respective tropes, two types of character who typically would never be in the same story, and we cut to the core of what actually makes these archetypes similar. The way Loki's reflected in the glass as he gives the whole disparaging speech to Natasha, highlighting how every last thing he says applies to himself as well, that's the good stuff, man. In a movie full of fantastic character beats and interactions, this is one of the best, and from what I can remember, Nat turning the tables on Loki is one of the first big cheer moments the movie got when I first saw it in theaters. Conversely, I find that people get hung up on the big, super memorable exchanges in this film, the big punchlines or witticisms, but this movie is quite adept at communicating a lot about these characters and their changing relationships in small, easily missed moments. Nat smiling when Iron Man shows up, basically any of the aforementioned check-ins we get with Nat and Bruce, Tony offering to fly Coulson to Portland and then later trying to play off how much he cared. I even like how we managed to squeeze in a little meaningful characterization for Selvig and Hawkeye while they're brainwashed by Loki. Take what we know and will come to know about both characters, and this little bit where Selvig is awestruck and inspired by the scepter, while Clint is just viewing it all as another day at work, that tracks with who these people are. It's really good. Also, I can't spend all this time talking about characters and not give flowers to Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, who has the super important role of actually being the whole movie's straight man, the one who makes all of this work by taking the other characters' quirks and baggage and conceptual weirdness in total stone-faced stride. Quietly, he's a linchpin that the film does not work without. And finally, I can't leave off without talking about Alan Silvestri's score. Not his best work, given just how high a bar that is, but it gives the Avengers as a franchise a nice, distinct sonic identity. The themes and motifs here are simple but memorable, and they're another thing that helps the many disparate elements here feel of a piece with each other. So I'm gonna call it there. Like I said, not comprehensive. There's so much more I could talk about in this movie, but I think these are the biggest reasons for its staying power. If you love this movie too, tell me why in the comments. If you don't love it, tell me why not. If you want to make my day a bit brighter, you could like and subscribe, because I've got the Age of Ultron video coming next month, and some other stuff you might like besides. Thanks.